Now that you have a bit more experience with HTML and CSS, I'd like to explain a little something about how you actually utilize it, how you actually learn about HTML and CSS, and what really needs to stick in there. So I drew up this little diagram using Canva, and the green, here's the key right here at the top, the green is what I know. The yellow is what I don't know, but I probably used before and could quickly Google. The black is what I don't know that I don't know. So just looking at HTML really quickly, green takes up the most space here. And there's a lot that I've used, but I don't really use all the time. So it's not really something I sit there and try to memorize. And I haven't used it enough where it's really ingrained in there. And then the black is, again, just a complete guess because you can't really know what you don't know. I think it's roughly about that much, but again, I really have no idea. CSS, I know even less of the total of CSS. There's a lot more that I know about, but that I can use, but I'll need to Google, and there's a lot more that I don't know about. So there's definitely a lot more to know about CSS. And with JavaScript, it just kind of gets a little crazy. The green dot, this little thing right there, is what I feel confident that I know. Now keep in mind, guys, I've been a developer for about 6 years. I've been doing HTML and CSS for that entire time. I've been doing JavaScript on and off, and I've gotten really good at JavaScript the past couple of years. And I feel like this represents basically the core and a bit more than that. So I just wanted to put it in proportion for you, the comparison, kind of how much there is to know. By the way, these green dots, these green boxes really aren't a representation like total knowledge. Otherwise, the green here would be probably like just as big as HTML and CSS roughly. So it's not exactly to scale. You have to like blow up JavaScript a lot bigger to see it because that's just how much there is. It's kind of crazy. I know a whole lot of JavaScript, but what I know is really the core and how to build a bunch of different stuff. The thing is, there's so much that you can do. It's crazy. And with HTML and CSS, yeah, these things get updated kind of regularly. You know, every once in a while, somebody does some really cool stuff with HTML maybe, or they update HTML. This doesn't really change all that much. CSS, you'll see some cool stuff, you know, all the time. You go on codepen.io and see cool stuff all the time. With JavaScript, it gets updated like every hour. Somebody's doing some cool, brand new, awesome thing with it. Most of the time, it goes into the I do not know section. Sometimes it falls into I bet I can figure it out. So just keep in mind as you're learning to code, it's simply not possible for you to learn all this stuff. Even if you had 24 hours in a day, you didn't have to sleep, and all you could do is just study coding, there's no possible way that you could learn and memorize everything there is to know about all three of these. It just would not be possible. Furthermore, it wouldn't really even be worth it. Because when you get hired, you're not going to get hired to use all of JavaScript. That's absolutely ridiculous. You're going to be hired to do a tiny itty bitty little piece of JavaScript to do one very specific thing, you know, and do different things multiple times. But it's not going to be the entire portion of JavaScript. It's just going to be this little tiny section that you need to use. And the cool thing with JavaScript is that when you're learning JavaScript, you actually go through this little path. So let's say like that's my little green dot right there, and maybe I learned something new right over here, and I learned something new over here, and it just keeps taking me further and further, closer and closer to what I don't know. And then all of a sudden, this whole black unknown spot just opens up and becomes known to me, and now I can learn even more about it because I know the right terminology and the right phrases to use and all that good stuff. So that's basically it in a nutshell. There's a whole lot out there to learn, really way too much for you to learn it all. The key is to really focus on learning what you can utilize.